The internet is the real world. Individuals have never before had a chance to have their voices be heard. The only voice that could be heard in the past was from those in power. Now, that's shifting and changing. Everyone is a person and has rights. If not, democracy is a lie. Europe and the US have always been very greedy to increase their profit. Their attitude of not wanting to take responsibility shows how cowardly and selfish they are. I think we're lucky that information can be flowing and transmitted through social media in almost real time. We can rally against power. We have to trust in humanity, not politicians. Oh, hello there. I didn't see you guys come in. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk Show. I was just reading a little bit of Humanity by Ai Weiwei, the Chinese artist and dissident who's been kicked out of his home country pretty much. They recently raided his art shop and they were shutting it down and taking all of his pieces. The government are really big fans of his work. But let's get started on today's Bitcoin Talk Show. Today is Sunday, August 26, 2018. My name is Thomas Hunt, and here's what's happening today in Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.72% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 6,690, a high of 6,777, and a low of 6,579. That's $1 for 14,956 Satoshis, just barely under the 15,000 Satoshi barrier. Let's give this wheel a spin. Here we go. Big money, big money. The top 10 altcoins by volume against the price of Bitcoin. Ethereum down 0.5 point. Bitcoin Cash down 2%. EOS down 1 and almost a quarter. Ethereum Classic up 1.5. Dash down 0.5 point. Litecoin down 1%. Ripple down 0.75%. Ontology up 0.75%. And Zcash down around 1.25, rounding out the top 10 altcoins, leaving out Tron, Qtum this time, Zcash, and Ontology rising in volume. Checking out the top 5 or so distributed applications, IDEX, the only one with more than 1,000, Fork Delta just behind with 988. Ethereum, FOMO3D, and CryptoKitties rounding out the top 5 with Bancor right behind, a massive 297 daily active users for Bancor. Checking out the Blockchain Activity Index, EOS, Steem, and BitShares still rounding out the top 3 with Ethereum and Bitcoin running right behind. There are 48,000 unconfirmed transactions on the Ethereum blockchain, while Bitcoin is at only 37% capacity. Checking out our Tallycoin fundraiser seems to be broken. It doesn't work anymore. People don't donate Bitcoin to fundraisers. They think your goal is unreasonable. They don't think that you'll make it even if you plan to hodl all the way up. They also don't think that the World Crypto Network can spread the word about Bitcoin. But that's what we do. We spread the word about Bitcoin. Duh. Of course. Everyone knows that. But let's give this a test right now. Here we go. Will it work? Let's see. Can't use this wallet. You have to use that wallet. Oh, there we go. Regular fees. Do you not have enough funds to use this fee? Aha, regular fee, 5 cents. Okay, sounds fair. Error, something, something. Oh, blockchain.info. Such a great wallet. Oh, it really doesn't work. Oh, well, so much for blockchain.info, but there was a chance if you'd like to donate to the QR code on your screen right now to support the World Crypto Network. Let's check out subscribers. We are at 60,859. We are creeping our way towards the impossible barrier of 61,000 subscribers for the World Crypto Network. Amazing. Yesterday, we only had one show. A pretty normal day around here. Not like Friday where we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shows on Friday. It's amazing what can happen when people work together and put all their shows on the same channel so we can just enjoy them right here It's amazing. Yesterday we got 96, make that 97 likes. Good for 1,037 views. And let's check out the comments. Charlie the Camp says, "Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime." Agro Manus says, "Buy Nano." Who knows what Nano is? I'm sure it's great. Let's check out what's happening on Twitter. Richard Feynman, "By learning, you will teach. By teaching, you will learn." It's good advice. Paul Krugman says everyone knows about the Bitcoin price crash. Less known is that the number of transactions peaked at the beginning of this year and is now lower than 2 years ago. Replacing conventional money? Not so much. Ooh. And Bram Cohen, inventor of Bitcoin, writes back at Krugman saying transactions had hit the limit, which caused the price per transaction to go up, which caused people to change their behavior and get the same effect out of fewer transactions, i.e., batching, which caused the transaction rate to drop. Apparently, these market things actually work. And again, Paul Krugman, defender of the fax machine, hater of the internet, one who says you don't need to worry about inflation in a normal world. In a normal world, not Venezuela, not other countries like that, you don't need to worry about inflation. Check out that sweet tissue paper that's wrapping up that open dime right there. Pretty cool. Bitcoin as a gift. They say a new Elon Musk has been selected in San Francisco as there's a fire near the Tesla plant in Fremont, sending black smoke billowing into the sky. Just like we were talking about the show, here it is from Whale Panda. He quotes an article from xbt.net. Hydroelectric dam in Valete Falls, New York, to be restored and dedicated to mining cryptocurrency. That's right. Dams that were unneeded because no one needs power there and it's difficult to transfer power over long distances can now be refurbished and used to mine Bitcoin. The energy from the falling water, which is falling anyway, can be turned into Bitcoin, which is like value. Once again, this keeps happening and it's good for the environment. Samson Mao has a deep dive into Bitmain's chip business, from their fortuitous rise to prominence to their technological stagnation, failing gambles resulting in billions in losses, and the inability to innovate. Competitors have completely outclassed them. And according to Samson, this article was being censored and blocked by Bitmain, so he decided to host it on his own blog. As he says here, this article was written by Alan Go of 2048 Capital, and it was translated with his permission. Bitmain has been trying very hard to scrub it from Chinese news sites, so he set up his own blog to host the translated version to minimize the chances of it being taken down. And here it is right here. Bitmain IPO and technical challenges. Let's see. During the market's best 2 years, Bitmain did not roll out any new chips or new mining hardware to update its core Bitcoin mining product line, which can be fatal for a chip company in this fast-growing industry. This article takes you through the twists and turns of the path as the king of hash rate took to climb from a startup to the top of the industry before its product line fell behind. In the face of other uprising competitors, can Bitmain be reborn by branching out into the AI field and launching an IPO? So definitely check out this article at samsonmao.com. It does seem that the main problem with Bitmain, according to the article, is that they are failing their core competencies as a mining chip company. They had several failures in their new hardware and branched out into AI maybe a little too soon. They could have just stuck with Bitcoin mining. Their failure to produce a new Antminer chip and a new Antminer may put them in real trouble. The question is, will Wall Street bail them out? Let's see. The key to Bitmain's success is that the company took advantage of the chip process dividend, dared to invest at the most advanced manufacturing process, and once led in chip design innovation. The correct decision making and seizing of opportunity in these two dimensions laid the foundation for its success over the past 4 years. Over time, the landscape in these two dimensions has undergone major changes and is quite different today. On one hand, all of Bitmain's competitors are aware of the importance of upgrading the manufacturing process, and the cognitive advantage in this area no longer exists. On the other hand, Bitmain faces stagnation or even regression in its ability to design core chips, which has become its Achilles heel. To make matters worse, the bold investment which brought Bitmain initial achievements soon developed into blind gambling and even self-destruction suppression of rivals, which harms both the company's cash flow and the competition and cooperative ecosystem of this young industry. Let's see, the AI, same technical challenges in the AI space. And let's see. He hopes that after successful fundraising, the focus of Bitmain will one day return to technological innovation, being an industry ecosystem builder and becoming a driving force in this new digital economy. So they do have hopes for Bitmain. Speaking of China, I went down to the Palms Casino yesterday and I saw they had a new game. They had electronic baccarat with a real dealer. You can see the dealer in the front. She deals to all of these machines. So all of these machines are playing against the deck that she's dealing. Never seen that before. Pretty cool down at the Palms. Also, I saw some pretty art down at the Palms. This one has a bunch of happy, smiley faces, all in flowers, arrayed in a giant circle. And this was Takashi Murakami. I don't know. I can't say anything right today. Called Open Your Hands Wide. And then it had this one with the four skulls, which is, of course, Damien Hirst. Beautiful Artemis, Thor, Neptune, Odin, delusional, sapphic, inspirational hypnosis painting. Yeah, that's it. Four skulls. Four skulls. John Light gives a shout out to Mythos. He's going to give it a try. Pretty cool. Mystos, the multi-signature wallet that you can use for your decentralized organization or your charity. You can have multiple people sharing the same wallet, and you don't really have to know anything about how it works. That's a great thing about it, is it's very easy to use. There's no complexities. You just use it. And thanks to Blockstack, it's even distributed and decentralized. It's pretty cool. We say a sad farewell to John McCain. Like him or hate him, a person has died here. It's a sad thing. I've seen a lot of negative people on Twitter kind of unloading on John McCain, and I don't think it's a time to do that. I'm not the biggest John McCain fan. Personally, he visited the school I was attending, and I watched his speech, and I wasn't sure what a great thing it was to have someone who was tortured as a veteran in a political position. I guess I'd seen the movie Manchurian Candidate, and I worried that Mr. McCain still bore the scars from his injuries. But again, he overcame that, and he continued to consistently overcome that. And it's no longer a concern I have. But he was pretty incredible in a lot of different ways. Love him or hate him. The story of the torture in Vietnam is truly unbelievable. He refused to leave. They wanted to take him out. He said he wouldn't leave until the last man went. He wanted them to leave in order. He protested and fought with his captors. They broke his arm several times. He could never lift his arms above his head again. But he just kept fighting. Pretty incredible spirit, even if you're not a Republican. And of course, recently, when you see the tributes these days, there's tributes from the right and the left for McCain. And I wonder if we'll ever see that again. I wonder if we'll ever see someone that could vote against destroying Obamacare and at the same time was, a passionate anti-Clinton person and ran against Obama and all these kind of things. So pretty interesting. And yeah, I mean, the chat is, some of them don't like him, but just remember he's a person. So even if I mean, I don't like, Dick Cheney or George W. Bush, but I'm open to the idea that they're people. Although Cheney is more man than machine now. But you know, let's see, what's this all about? I don't know. There's some crazy volume on Bitcoin, these big giant runs. Somebody was like, sell, 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 sell a little bit more, and I'm done. So I don't know. It was a Saturday volume. Meanwhile, the president of the United States doesn't know how to color in the American flag. As you can see, he's drawn a blue stripe. So that looks a lot more like the Russian flag or the Dutch flag. So very strange. Just saying. Samson Mao says the core tenet of Bcash is to fork whenever there's a disagreement. So oblivion is inevitable. For Bitcoin, the core tenet is censorship resistant digital gold and everything that that implies, with variation layered on top. A scalable, permissionless model. Very right on there by Samson Mao. The problem with Bcash is that they made a deal with a bunch of traders, right? And you can't trust the traders. They're always going to betray you. Their whole thing was like, well, we don't agree with what's going on in Bitcoin land, so we're creating Bitcoin Cash land. And now they don't agree with what's going on in Bitcoin Cash land. So, shocker, they're creating Bitcoin Cash Satoshi's Vision land. There are people that can't work with other people, right? There are people that would prefer to run things themselves. And we keep seeing this. We keep seeing kind of the worst elements of humanity brought to light by Bitcoin. There's so much greed. There's so much of just everything going on in Bitcoin. There's greed and opportunity, and it's a new world. And it's a wide open ocean. We could do anything out there. We could be pirates. There are no rules. But at the core of it, having good values, having good rules for yourself always pays off, right? It always comes back. Even if you don't have to do it, the karma, like the Bitmain situation, everyone was like, we need to stop Bitmain. Mining's becoming centralized in China. We've got a real problem, you know? And look, Bitmain's just shooting themselves in the foot. They had an incredible cache of Bitcoin. We're going to look back on that in the future and say, wow, Bitmain could have been one of the biggest, richest companies ever. They never had to make any products. They could have just held that Bitcoin and they traded it for some magic beans. And we're always going to wonder what the world could have been like and would have been like if they hadn't traded it in for magic beans. Speaking of jokes, CNBC tweets have been a contrarian Bitcoin price indicator with 95% accuracy. That's right. Every time CNBC says something about Bitcoin, you should do the opposite. It's pretty uncanny. I was impressed when they called Ripple at $3. At $3 a coin, they were like, here's how you invest in Ripple. And now Ripple's back to like 30 cents or something. So I don't know. Big mistake. And they have a new documentary coming out. It looks absolutely terrible. They're interviewing some guy in his tree house. He's not representing Bitcoin well. I'm not going to speak poorly of the guy. I'm sure he's an all right dude, but the clips they've shown on CNBC, he seems like a moron, and he's got the whole I hodl all the way up and I hodl all the way down. And the worst part is CNBC insists on persisting this nonsense the media invented that hodl means hold on for dear life. What a magical idea for the media world to live in, that this drunk guy mistypes the word hold and he really meant an acronym, hold on for dear life. This drunk guy on Bitcoin Talk Forum who writes this post, and he's like, I'm not as smart as everyone, and I don't know where the ups are, and I don't know where the downs are, so I just hodl. Right? He screwed up. He typo. It's a simple explanation, media. You go back to the very first mention of the word, like the Oxford English Dictionary would do. You go back to that, you see what that is, and that's how you find out what it means. You don't have to invent an acronym. CNBC means cannot Bitcoin compute. I don't know. Like, let's make up new acronyms for CNBC in the chat. I'll read the best ones here. Woman at McCain event. I can't trust Obama. I've read about him, and he's not he's an Arab." McCain, "No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, a citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on a fundamental issues." And that's what this campaign is all about. People tried to take us over the ledge into the Trump world earlier, and McCain said no. And that was a pretty incredible moment where he said, "No, we're not going to use this birtherism, which was in many ways started by Donald Trump. It was popularized by Donald Trump, perhaps ironically started by the Hillary campaign. But certainly, if you pick up a flag and wave it, you're responsible for what happens." And very, very good stuff from McCain. See, I don't agree with him on like gun control. I don't agree with him on like a lot of issues. But when he says something like this, he's a citizen I happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues. That's what makes America a country. And that's what used to make America a country. There we go. Zach's got it in the chat. He says CNBC can't never be correct. Can't never be correct. The Stoic Emperor. The road to mastery is only traveled by those who can tolerate being a beginner. Knowledge begins with the acknowledgement of ignorance. Modern people may have to learn and discard many skills throughout their lives. Those who can embrace being a beginner will thrive. So, and there we got the, again, these Pepe people. They just go right to it. It's like, yeah, and you're banned. So, what was the point of all that? Like, why bother? So, I don't know. But we've got a great, interesting little video clips from Samson Mao here. Ah, yeah, I remember this computer doesn't play video clips, right? Well, anyway, Samson's doing an interview, and he's talking, and then Roger over here is presumably waiting to be interviewed. Roger interrupts Samson and starts threatening him and challenging him. Roger says, "Oh, why won't you debate me? Why won't you do an interview with me at the same time?" And Samson's like, "I'm doing my own interview here. What's the problem?" And then Roger's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Why would you do this?" And Samson says, "Roger, you have bad facts. You always bring them up, and you ask bad questions. You ask misleading questions, and you keep doing this." And he's basically calling Roger out for a propagandist and that he won't talk to Roger directly. And then Samson Mao gets up and leaves. So very interesting little video clip there on Twitter. Which side are you on? Pretty much Roger is out of his mind here. He's just being so rude to Samson, and he's getting pretty pathetic and desperate. So I have half a mind to go back to Roger's most recent video, cut out all of his facts and all of his questions, and do one of those hit videos where you're like, "Oh, this is this, Roger's wrong. This is this, Roger's wrong," because it's getting down to that point. He's not going to give this up, and he chases Samson Mao out of the room from the interview. Then he has his video of it, and he puts the video up, and he's trying to get people to retweet Samson quits. See, it says hashtag Samson quits. So Roger thinks this is a victory. He's chased him out of the room, interrupted his interview, acted like a jerk, and he thinks that this is a victory. So let Roger know it's not a victory. He's lost his mind. And there it is, more problems for Roger. A fight is breaking out over Bitcoin Cash, and it just might split it in two. And boy, it's going to be great then. Dan the Dark Pill asks, where do people with no technical knowledge get the confidence to start a YouTube channel and speak at conferences? I don't know, but this is where Bcash has brought us. Borderline catatonics being platformed as thought leaders. And he showed this video where a guy was talking about Bcash and he just made up a bunch of stuff, and it was not a very impressive video. He kept saying how exciting the Bcash industry was and great things were going on in that space, and it was very, very, very strange. And yeah, I don't know what's going on over there. Had to take Google down a notch this morning. Dear Google, no, I will not update to the new Google News video app. I do not need to watch video news. I would prefer to read, as I read faster than I watch. This way, I get news faster. Stop trying to dumb down the entire world. Let the last 5 readers enjoy their app. And even when they pull bullshit like putting the top story on the app, Google News is replacing Google News and weather, blah, 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 blah. No, you're not. You're going to shut this down, and I'm going to go back to a web link of Google News. That's all that's going to happen. You're going to get less ads. Bad for you. And then we had one more quote from Gabriel Devine saying one of his favorite movies. It looks like Kung Fu Panda. He says, "You are too concerned with what was and what will be. There is a saying, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. And that is why it is called the present." The present. And there's that article about Bitmain. We talked about Bitcoin Cash. Mainstream media. Could Bitcoin replace credit cards? Yes. Could replace money. All the money. Bitcoin could fall to $3,000, says one of crypto's most bullish VCs. Well, if he says it could fall, then he's not bullish. What are you talking about? Let's see. Morgan Capital Management founder Mark Yusko has predicted a end of year price by 2,500 or 25,000, followed by a price run to 500,000 by 2024. Okay. But he says it could hit 3,000 in the short term, anywhere near 10,000. I guess. Oh, this is that guy on Twitter, the guy that quit Twitter. So that's a different guy. The guy from the capital management thing says it's going up like crazy. But the guy they're quoting in the headline says it'll go down. All right. An interest rate hike in September might delay a trend reversal. And he's talking about Bitcoin, saying it's linked to the mainstream media and the mainstream markets, that this interest rates and the strength of the dollar could be hurting Bitcoin. It's a good point. Cody Wilson says, Bitcoin whales, where are you? And he wants the Bitcoin whales to fund his 3D printed gun project. And he's probably looking for the libertarian Bitcoin whales. And it's funny, the corporate Bitcoin whales don't show up. The libertarian Bitcoin whales don't show up. None of the Bitcoin whales seem to show up. They're buying Lambos, Cody. They don't care. They're not both Amir Taki and Cody Wilson, both the heroes of the old Bitcoin movement, apparently didn't buy a bunch of Bitcoin and hold it, or don't have any friends or acquaintances who bought a bunch of Bitcoin and held it, and now are out begging for Bitcoin for their new projects. So interesting stuff. Obviously, I do think eventually Cody Wilson's going to win. He's going to publish these plans and he's going to 3D print these guns. It's a simple thing to me. I'm not sure why he's so dedicated to it. I'm not sure what the goods are. What's good about the world after we can all 3D print a gun? Intellectually, I'm not arguing against it. Sure, plans are plans, printers are printers. But why do we need a gun right away? We need more guns? I'm not sure about that. But he wants the Bitcoin whales to give him money. Other than that, it's all about the price. It's all the same old stories in the mainstream media. So we're going to check out the chat. Of course, reminding you to donate to the Patreon campaign at patreon.com/WCN or patreon.com/madbitcoins. And that you can support the World Crypto Network with the QR codes on your screen right now. You could even pause it. And let's check out the chat. Oh, good. We've got some more things for CNBC. Let's see what we got. Oh, we've got lots of dislike for McCain. Okay. But remember, he's a person. So even if you don't like him, let's just say, hey, he's a person. So Jed Power says, amen, Thomas. Hero regardless of political leanings. Other people say he's a traitor about to be arrested. All right. CNBC can't never be correct. Commit nonsense Bitcoin news. Let's see. There is such an alpha. Here we go. CNBC creating news for broke clowns. CNBC con news bullshit company. All right, got to work on that one. Let's see. If I was Roger, I would just buy an island, shut up, and live in peace. I kind of agree with that. What more do I really want other than to, read some books, watch some movies, hang out with friends, make sure everyone's taken care of, have things be cool, and just chill. I don't know why Roger can't do that. Moonshine Fuel thinks if it wasn't for Roger, Bcash might have some success. Now there's an opposite idea. I don't know. Roger's done a lot for Bcash. He funds the Bitcoin.com website. He pays all those people's salaries. He's doing all the advertising and buying all the fake tweets and all the fake views. Let's see. If they weren't scammy about the fork. Ver is stuck in the second phase of Freudian development. Now we're getting into it. Let's see here. The second phase, the anal stage. According to Freud, the anus is the primal erogenary zone and pleasure is derived from the controlling bladder and bowel movement. Doesn't sound good for Roger. Don't slap pandas. Samsung versus Roger debate is like a socialist talking with an anarchist capitalist. That's an interesting take on it. Lucifer says, CNBC, consumers need Bitcoin cards. Here we go. CNBC, clowns need Bitcoin cash. There you go. That's a good one. A very specific prediction. Oh, where'd it go? It went away. It's totally gone. My prediction is Bitcoin will be between 0 and infinity by the year 9047. A very solid prediction by Zach. He's all in on 0 and infinity. CNBC can be the crypto noobs BS network. And let's see, you should add Trump coin for kicks in the donation. There's a Trump coin. He'll probably sue that out of existence. He can't have that on his brand. He needs that on his brand. Let's see. How many in the chat buy Bitcoin every month? It's best to dollar cost average, right? That's the way to get into Bitcoin. Buy it slowly, build it up. But this is the World Crypto Network. This is Bitcoin Talk Show, and we're taking your call. So give us a call right now at 518 600 1949. We're going to keep the show going for a little while. It is Sunday morning, so if people are up and ready to talk, that's great. If not, could always use the morning off. What have I been up to lately? Well, I finished the Omarosa book. So I'm once again up on all my Trump news. I've read Fire and the Fury. I read Comey's book. I read Russian Roulette. And now I read Omarosa's book. Definitely the worst of the Trump books. So much background and history about Omarosa's life. She seems like a pretty nice person. She's got an interesting backstory. And then she goes and works for the White House. It seems it's all about climbing up to the next level. At first, she climbs up to get on TV with The Apprentice, and things go pretty well. Then she climbs up to get on the Trump presidential bandwagon, even though she used to be a Democrat and used to work for Clinton, tried to work with Barack, all these kind of things. So she's given up her principles. So it's an interesting book because throughout the whole time, she's basically making excuses. She's like, I thought we could do this. I thought we could do that. And it's all to explain what is really a self-serving move for her. And people tell her in the book, they're like, Omarosa, your people, you're betraying your people. You're betraying the things you actually believe in. These are bad people you're working with. And she kind of shrugs it off and she's like, no, I can do good in the bad place. And you know, that's a fundamental debate. That's a fundamental debate here. That's something big. Is it better to be like Omarosa inside the Trump administration, talking to the people involved, trying to, chill them out, right? Or is it better to be outside and be saying, oh, it's got to stop. It's got to stop now, but not actually having any contact with these people? So it was curious from that perspective. It was also curious to hear her describe Trump and what he used to be like. And she describes him on The Apprentice for having a head for figures, being thin, in good shape, being incredibly sharp and fast, always kind of bored, wanting to go on to the next issue. It really does sound like the Trump of 2003 was very hot, right? He was the things he's describing. She describes him now as a person with mental problems. He seems like he has dementia. He's drinking 11 to 13 Diet Cokes a day. She referenced an article that the fake sugar used in Diet Cokes could actually lead to dementia. And she estimated that the president has drank more than 43,000 Coca Colas over the last 10 years. So there's a big problem there. And, well, no, I mean, you guys can go read this book if you want. This is what I read this book. I'm interested in this situation. So yeah, I think when he repeats things over and over again, that's a sign of dementia. I think that Omarosa, as a person on the inside, has a unique position to tell us these things. So we'll see how history goes, and we'll see how it turns out. I'm just, don't shoot the messenger here. I did the work. I read the book. If you guys want to read the book, that's cool. But otherwise, just check it out. Also, I want to do a quick review on Kindles. I've got two Kindles now. It seems excessive. This one is the new gold one that works underwater. So it's very cool that it works underwater. It's got buttons on the side. And what's nice is that you can flip it over and use the buttons on the other side. So that's pretty cool. And the main thing is glowing screen and waterproof. I've also got my previous Kindle, which is a very good Kindle, but isn't waterproof. It's got the glowing screen and it's got the buttons. And I'll say, surprisingly, I kind of like having two Kindles. It seems truly unnecessary. It seems excessive. But this way, when one of them says battery needs charging, I can plug it in and switch to the other one. Also, one of them's a little thinner. The old Kindle is actually more pocket sized, being a little thinner. The new Kindle is actually a little wider. So it has a larger place for you to like put your hand and hold on to the thing. The left and right hand thing is really cool too. The way I showed you with the buttons and the screen flipping over, that really does it. But yeah, you can read underwater. You can read in the pool. You can accidentally drop it somewhere. You can read in the bathtub. It's great. So the new Kindle, a little too wide, and eventually I run down the battery. But other than that, it's been fun. But I also like having both. And it's neat the way you can read the same book on two different devices, even three devices with your phone. So so you can like read a paragraph or two on your phone, go back to the Kindle, go back to the other one, so on and so forth. So Edmund Dorff says, "Does the glowing screen tire the eyes compared to the original?" I wouldn't say so. It is still the e-ink screen, so you can turn off the brightness. So if you're in a room with proper light or you have a light behind you, you can turn off the backlight. You can also adjust the backlight up and down. So it seems pretty bright at some points here, but it actually goes down nicely. Like it's let me get an example up on the screen here. Here's the Robin Williams book. It's showing you the notes section, but let's see. Just a second, chat. So here it is. Let's see. This is full brightness. So it seems pretty bright, right? Then here's about half brightness. So you see, it's kind of a mixture of a backlight and an e-ink screen. And then here's no brightness at all. So this is just e-ink. And again, the reason why you would buy a Kindle, like a dedicated reading device, is because it's easier to read e-ink, which is actually magnets that move the ink around on the screen, than is to read like a tablet or a phone. Like a phone is actually, bright, like it's putting the lights in your eyes there. So, whereas this thing is actually e-ink, so it's a little better. So you can check that out if you're into reading, if you're into the Kindle. I definitely think it's worth it. We're going back to the chat, seeing what's going on. Someone has a Kobo a few years ago, avoiding contributing to Amazon. I'd agree with that. It looked pretty cool. I thought the Kobos were coming around. And just in general, I always like an e-reader. It's great stuff. So, yeah, although I kind of like the Amazon ecosystem, if I ever buy a book through them, it syncs to all my devices, and I always have that book forever. So it's pretty cool. So blue light from computer screens is bad for the eyes. I don't know that the Kindle light is truly blue. I think it has a bit of a white to it, but I don't know. You'll have to read more about that, but I think the Kindle's cool. Are you allowed to post a crypto site in here? Bunny Money says, when I'm underwater, all I can think of is getting air. Why am I reading underwater? And that is a good point. It's funny to see how it's not so much reading underwater, it's more about dropping it in the water. But yeah, the first thing I did is I took it outside and dropped it in the pool, and I'm like, "Oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen to you, book?" And it was fine. It was pretty impressive as a technology that they can close it down so much, and it still just has a normal USB port. So there's some kind of waterproof USB port on the thing, and I guess eventually it's gonna wear down. I always think these things are gonna last a long time, and then I always end up upgrading for a new one anyway, so I don't know. Let's see. People are talking, blah, blah, blah. Dave wishes his Kindle was a little bigger. Well, the new one is a little bigger than the old one. I've got they keep changing the name, but this is, I don't know, the Kindle Waterproof is the new one for me. And then the other one is called the Kindle Voyage, which is an upgraded version of the other Kindle, which was also perfectly good. So, but it just keeps getting better. Yeah, e-ink is kind of like an etch-a-sketch, and that's a good way to think about it. Because when you see the pages turn, and especially on the old Kindles, you really used to be able to see the pages turn. You can kind of see all the ink like scatter off and then scatter back on as it forms all the words. And that's what's really neat about e-ink screens. And they tried for a while to do a combination tablet e-ink screen, but I don't think it worked yet. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Dave from Youngstown. I want to know if this is a Bitcoin show still, or if this is a Kindle unboxing show.
Oh, we're talking entirely about Kindles today. Not enough people have e-ink Kindles, so I need to spread the word.
What about the Nook then?
The Nook.
Review the Barnes and Noble Nook for us.
I've never tried a Nook. I tried them back when I got the first Kindle. It was always slower. The same thing with Nook is like you just want to be with Amazon. You just want to give in and be with the best. It's all about the Kindle. Everyone in the chat is celebrating this, by the way. The chat is like, I can't believe we've switched over to Amazon chat. This is the way it always should have been. I want to know more about Amazon products.
What else do they got? They have that Fire Stick. You ever try that thing out?
Fire Stick, sure. I've heard good things about the Fire Stick. You're able to get some kind of program on there, and then you can watch anything you want. I don't know how it works, but lots of people are
jailbroken. You might have to find somebody that knows how to do it. I don't know. I've had people offer it to me before to do that, but I've never really taken them up on it. We have Netflix, and it's really all, between the 17 hours of Bitcoin media that I watch every day, I don't really have a whole lot of time for other stuff. So,
well, the problem is they get you addicted to all these shows, and pretty soon you need Netflix for that show and Hulu for this show, and then you might want to subscribe to ESPN. Maybe I can get you a YouTube subscription, and of course Disney's making their own streaming service. So we're gonna have to subscribe to a lot of streaming services in the future. So,
right. Plus, we've got to get on all the ones that are decentralized and blockchainified, so that they can't be censored and all that, like your Steemits and the various, like Made Safe. I'm sure that somebody's tried to build a YouTube. What's the one on Steam? DTube, I think it is.
DTube. Yeah, and there was some other link in my mail about BitTube. Everyone's making their own YouTube with Bitcoin. Yeah. No, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, even the funny thing, I saw the McLaughlin Group, the political show that I've watched for like 20 years, and it's been on the air for 30 years. And they came back recently, and it was great, and they were on YouTube. And now they're putting up messages, we can't be here anymore. We need to switch to a subscription model, and they're hiding their episodes from the internet. to have this subscription model. And we all know the end. It's going to fail, right? Not enough people are going to join their subscription model. By removing their content from the internet, they're not going to get the advertising that they need to bring people to their subscription model. So it's like the opposite of an ascending cycle, right? It's a descending
Yeah,
cycle. Like it's they're just
it
destroying
was really
themselves.
niche to begin with. What it was on, I think it was on public TV, wasn't it, when it started?
Well, it's tough to say. When it started, it was on Sunday mornings, and it was kind of like the first news opinion show of its kind. So they were yelling at each other, and everyone was like, "How can you yell at each other on TV?" And now it's more like, "How can they not yell at each
How
other
could
on
you have
TV?"
TV without people yelling at each
Yeah, so they won. They changed the media, and of course, John McLaughlin did it for 35 years consecutively, and he's a beast. But you know, he passed away just 2 weeks after doing the show, something like that. He put out this message before he passed, and he's like, "My commitment to the show is absolute." And I was like, wow, like even, you know, on his deathbed, McLaughlin is like throwing it down. And these new people, they don't quite understand what they're doing. And I know they need some kind of money for it, but yeah, by taking it down like this. So yeah, then it was on Sunday mornings, then it went to PBS, but it was like syndicated on PBS, and then it went down, down, down. And the new one has never been on PBS. It's never been syndicated. It's a YouTube show only. And apparently they need more money, and I assume they probably hired way too much of the old staff, and they're editing it and they're recording it. And I don't know, they found expensive ways to do it. And
Right.
yeah,
I'm sure they're in some kind of highfalutin studio in New York or Washington, you know, where the
yeah, I think they're in DC. It looks like they're on the set of someone else's show.
on.
And yeah, it doesn't look that great anymore. So
Yeah, I've never seen an episode of it. I've certainly seen the classic ones where he would have Pat Buchanan and that what's that other guy's name? EJ Dion. Couple of those I do remember those, but those were, gosh, those were probably 20 years ago now. I'm thinking of.
well, that's the thing to say McLaughlin Group is also to say oh, I love the Dana Carvey parody of him on Saturday Night Live. And of course, Dana Carvey hasn't been on Saturday Night Live since like 1995 or something. So we're getting big and old into the references, but still, it's a great show. And I wish they had a plan to succeed. But sadly, I have to watch them have this plan to fail. And all kinds of other people have this plan. And they're like, yeah, you should move this show over to DTube or D Live or BitTube. And you could, but you get so many less viewers. You have to be
Right.
where the viewers are. You have to make it incredibly convenient. And I think YouTube is where it's at. And in another way, podcasting. We kind of underplay it here because a lot of us are members of the live YouTube audience. And I'm a YouTuber and I like being a YouTuber, all those kind of things. But from what Corey tells me, we get 4 times the views of YouTube in the podcast.
Oh
People
yeah,
love
I've heard
audio.
too.
Like,
He's by far more people listen to the podcast than watch the YouTubes. Even though
mhm.
I'm the opposite. I mostly watch him on YouTube, and occasionally I'll pick up the podcast to go. I go for probably a 3 mile walk every day. Usually I take Adam Carolla's show with me for that,
Mhm.
but you know, sometimes when he's on like right now he's on hiatus for a week or whatever, so I may take something long like Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan's been really good lately with the Chuck Palahniuk and then the Neil deGrasse Tyson. I feel like I've spent 5 hours with Joe Rogan in the last 2 or 3 days. It's a lot of time. And it's funny for me because I always eventually, every once in a while, he'll do kind of a voice and I'll be reminded that this is Joe the janitor from the news radio show and how much I love that show. But at the same time, Joe the janitor, um, he's very similar to Joe Rogan in a lot of ways. It's pretty funny if you go back and think about it because he's you know, he's a kind of a brush fix it guy. He's not, you know, super intelligent, but he's into conspiracy theories and he believes in himself and he's very opinionated. And it's funny to see him grow from, you know, that little character to the Fear Factor host to the UFC host and commentator, and then now I don't know, he's in the Howard Stern type area where he's doing these incredibly long interviews with no breaks. So people can just be honest and they can really talk a topic out. Him and Neil deGrasse Tyson went all over the place. They talked about Space Force. They talked several times. Neil deGrasse blew my mind. He was like, "This is how this works, and it's because of this." Like, oh, the most recent one at the end, he was talking about rifles and how they do that military exercise and they throw the gun up in the air and they're flipping the gun around, all that kind of thing. He's like, why do they do this? He's like, because they need to hold on to the rifle. And during combat, they need to hold on to that rifle. And by practicing like twisting it and flipping it, which I'd always seen, and I've seen it in marching band and stuff, and I never thought about why they do it. I always thought it was kind of dressy and unnecessary. But as he's saying, gripping the rifle is your job as a rifleman. So I thought that was an incredible. And again, that's an insight from Neil deGrasse Tyson.
The target out there if you don't have the rifle.
That's right. You can't do anything. You're a rifleman. You're an infantry man. Like your job is the gun. So you better have it. So.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see what else. So many things are going on. I was at yesterday. We went to a launch of a new beer company. It's like a, the brewing market is not a free market institution by any stretch. If you want to start a beer label or whatever, you have to brew under contract with an existing brewer. You have to have somebody that's licensed by the state to do the brewing, that kind of thing. But
sure, and you have to, even in the store, you have to fight for shelf space. People don't think about this, but if you look at the shelf space, there's so much Coors beer and there's so much Budweiser beer. Why is there so much of it? They're paying the store to buy that space. It's pretty amazing. People don't think about it.
Yeah. So it's the local the mascot of the local college here, Youngstown State University, is the Penguin. So it's called Penguin City Beer. And it was pretty tasty. It's a kind of straight down the middle of the road lager that would be popular around here. It's, going to compete with your Yinglings and Budweisers and that kind of deal. And so that was fun.
I was going to say I should send out my brother. He's big into beer, but he doesn't like the beers that taste like Budweiser. He likes the darker beers and the pale ales and the IPAs.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
These kind of things. Yeah.
The people that it's brewed by a company called Paladin, and Paladin has all kinds of stuff. They have this medieval themed thing. Everything's about swords and shields and knights and ladies and that sort of stuff. And they have a lot of the real dark stuff, real interesting things. They have this one that they call Red Dragon, and it's brewed with raspberries. Really, really good stuff. So, but the Penguin is just one little thing that they're doing with these other folks that's going to be kind of Youngstown themed. So, went, had the beer, bought the T-shirt, and it's a good time.
Nice, man. Maybe they should take Bitcoin.
Yeah, I normally, did I have any Bitcoin gear on yesterday? On my hat I had a little pin. I have pretty much everywhere I go. I'm repping it somehow or another, and I do get a question or a comment every now and again. So it's out there, but it's definitely not. I bet even today, if I stop 10 people in the street, maybe they've heard of it but don't know anything about it.
Still, the best reaction I've ever had was I was going in for some medical testing, and there was this 90-year-old guy there, and I mentioned to him that I make Bitcoin videos or whatever, and he just went off like a firecracker. He was like, "Oh, Bitcoin, I hate that so much. I think it's a scam. I think everyone's going to lose their money. I won money on that at my poker game. I bet so and so that it was going to go down, and I won." And he was just so fired up about Bitcoin. Never had that reaction. And he thanked me for firing him up. He's like, "Oh, I feel so good now. I'm totally distracted from this horrible test because I hate Bitcoin so much." It was funny because I had the opposite. I was like, "No, I love Bitcoin." I'm telling all these doctors, I'm like, "Yeah, you're a doctor, but you should get some Bitcoin. It's better than being a doctor." And no, it was the best reaction ever. So,
yeah, I think we're in probably the last few months here of where it's going to be possible for a kind of, normal person with normal income to acquire a whole Bitcoin. It would already be a struggle for most people to put that kind of money away. What's it take if you put $100 away a month? It's going to take you 5 years to get one, so, and that's if the price stays where it is. So, Yeah, it's real, real
I
interesting time.
can't say I didn't
We're
tell them
definitely going to be
so.
telling people, in awe that yeah, we used to give out whole bitcoins to people as tips. We used to lose them and be like, it's only one Bitcoin, I'll replace it. No big deal.
Absolutely. I remember I did some trading on Mount Gox. I turned a Bitcoin into half a Bitcoin. I'm a genius trader. Just a couple
Well,
of days, just it went up and it went down, and it was like whoop de whoop, and that was it. I was like, oh well.
awesome. All right, well, I'll let you get on with the show here, and I'll sign off for now. But keep on trucking. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much for the call, Dave. Give us a call anytime. And you can call us now at 518 600 1949 on the World Crypto Network on Bitcoin Talk Show. We're talking about beer and Bitcoin. Everybody seems to be a big fan of Joe Rogan. And what I like about Joe Rogan is I think he also kind of crosses the party line, right? We can both agree that Joe Rogan is just interested in things, right? And whether it's politics or it's science or it's even remember, Joe Rogan's also my source for all that crazy Egyptian stuff that I'm totally fascinated by now. That the Sphinx is older than it used to be, and that they put a face on there, and I don't know, all that kind of Sphinx stuff. There was a couple of days there where all I was listening to was people about the Sphinx, thanks to Joe Rogan. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. It's Dan from Grand Rapids. How are you today?
Hey, Dan. Doing good. How's it going in Grand Rapids today?
It's going great. It's a little hot here, but not too bad. So I just have a quick thing to mention that I wanted to let everybody know in the chat and that's watching now that this is one of the only decentralized podcasts that I know. And if you don't like the topic that's being discussed, if you don't like talking about Kindles, which by the way, I love my Kindle and the paperweight is great. Then you can call in and you can change the topic and you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So your voice is a node on this decentralized network and you can vote with your node.
There it is, and anyone can do it, and that's why I think we shouldn't limit ourselves with topics here. It's not like Henry Fool said. He's like, I don't discriminate between modes of knowing, you know.
The other thing I wanted to mention about the Kindles, that why I like mine so much, is one, the battery life lasts so long, but two, I can't do anything but read. So a lot of times I have an iPad as well, and I'll be on my iPad and I'll get some notification while I'm reading. I'll get a notification. I'll go, oh, I got to check that out. And I'll click the notification and then I'll get buried in YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is. So when you open up your Kindle, all you're doing is reading, and you can really get a lot more. You can get more focus by doing that. It's like the classic paper books, if you've heard of those, where you don't get notifications while you're reading a paper book, which is nice.
It is impressive, although it's so sad. I do find myself, I'll do like 5 minutes on Twitter, and then I'll put the Twitter away, then I'll read the book for like 15 minutes, then I'll do 5 minutes on Twitter. You can't stop these devices, but it's definitely better to have the Kindle, like you say, where you can just focus on the book, or to have a real book and just focus on the book. It's all about, I don't know, there's kind of it's this thing that happens, like this psychic communication between you and the author when you're reading a book. And it happens in good books and it happens in bad books. But if you don't read consecutively, if you can't concentrate on it, if you can't get focused in, you're not going to have that happen. If you're reading in like a loud place, or you're easily distracted, or someone's talking to you while you're watching the news, while you're reading the book, it gets really hard to make that connection. Also, it depends what you're trying to read. Sometimes you read like a hard book. Well, certainly, first there are like hard books and there are easy books. There are science, which is pretty heavy and you have to read slowly. And then there's like, a light novel, which you can read quickly. So there's different kinds of books. And people don't know that. They think that all the books are boring. And so they won't read them. But there are lots of books that aren't boring where you're like, wow, I'm page turning, or a biography about someone you want to know about. Like I thought the new David Letterman biography was really good. I never knew so much about Letterman, and now I feel like I really know him. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the other advantage of being in the Amazon ecosystem as well is I'm an old time Audible member, and you can get the Kindle book at a drastic discount, or vice versa, if you have one or the other. So that's super nice. And the other thing that people don't know a lot is that you can get comic books on your Kindle. So they're a little expensive, but if you have like the I don't know, Amazon Unlimited or something like that, you can read comic books on your Paperwhite or your Voyage or whatever Kindle you happen to have.
I got a sample of that. I got a sample of the Kindle Unlimited recently, and I did download a couple of comic books. I haven't really gotten to them yet. I think they'd probably be better on like the iPad, like a tablet where you could do the color. And I did try out that
Oh, nice.
Speaking of subscription services that I've canceled and could always start again at any time, Marvel actually has a subscription service now, and it's kind of what you want. You get access to the entire back catalog. So I went back and started reading X-Men from the 90s, and it's pretty readable, but it's also too slow. I felt that I had to click too much to get through the books, whereas when I read a comic book, with my hands, it's really fast. So I'm sticking to the
Yeah.
graphic novels, but
Yep.
still good stuff.
So yeah, that's I just wanted to drop in and say that I'm still working on my Bitcoin / Lightning node, but actually one of the guys in the chat wanted to hook up with me because he's already got a node going, and you are building community, so that's awesome.
We're doing it. We're doing it right here. And I saw people on Twitter were also talking about Lightning nodes. I reached out to John Light again, and he kind of sassily got back to me saying that Bitseed is still in business and I could buy a Bitseed if I want one. And okay. And that they're working on Lightning, but they don't have it yet. So I don't know. He kind of like, he was
They
like,
should
it's,
give you one. They should give you one for product review. Come on.
well, I know they should, and some people have, and so they don't have to. And really, I need to go get a PO box so people can give me all kinds of nonsense. But nah,
Oh, there you go.
yeah, he wasn't too into the idea. And remember, I went to their website and it says they only have 3 in stock. So if I was to say, hey, let's all buy these nodes, it would be over. There'd be 3. I think we could sell 3 of something, but we're still working on it.
Start
I
your
might.
donation page for your Bitseed node.
I could. Well, I want to do the open dime first because that one's only $40. Then once we raise that, then maybe we'll raise for a bit seed. And if we get it, I'll buy it and I'll try it out. I'll show everyone. But part of the problem is it doesn't solve the problem because I don't get a lightning. I don't get a lightning node either.
Right.
So my friend Will Pangman wrote back on Twitter saying he was working on something with lightning nodes. So I don't know what that is. Maybe he's got another startup out there. But I'd love to talk to him about that or anybody that's out there working on this nodes and lightning problem. The Bitcoin community, at least from what I'm hearing from callers and stuff, actually wants to be involved and they actually want to run more nodes, but they don't want to have to know anything. And I know Bitseed's supposed to be plug and play. That's why I was interested to try it out because I'm lazy too. I mean, I can type Linux commands, but I don't want to, right? So,
Well, and what I liked about the when you went through the one with DigitalOcean was that I can pay a little extra and not have to worry about running it on my network. I don't have to worry about my wife is going to suddenly complain that the streaming is slow or something like that. It's just I can set it and forget it just by paying a little extra. So to me, sort of a subscription service is nice. I know that goes against the decentralization concept, but the more you use those services, the more of those services there will be. So it'll end up being decentralized to some degree. But yeah, so if I could get a cloud server up and running, then that would be absolutely ideal for me.
well, and why not both? Let's sell them to the same people. You could buy a subscription that comes with a local node. You can just plug it in, and it comes with a cloud node. And for every node you buy, it sponsors a node in the cloud. I mean, these ideas are pretty simple. I'm not inventing anything here. Tom's Shoes will buy a pair of shoes for someone if you buy a pair of shoes from them. This idea is very old, but there's no reason that the Bitcoiners and these companies can't do that. It seems like people want to buy more than just lightning stickers. with their Lightning. They want to buy nodes. They want to be a part of the network. They don't know how. They don't want to learn how. They want something easy. And I think if we make these goals clear to the technology people, then they'll say, hey, we can do that. I think, unfortunately, right now, I know Bitsy is kind of a small company, and that might be the reality of the interest in this is very small. It's a chicken and egg solution again. If we had $1 million to spend on advertising, telling people how to get a Bitcoin node and having a company and all that, then we would, so and so forth. We'd link around in a circle. So.
Yep. Well, the one last thing, and then I'll just hang up. But I do want to say that dollar cost averaging works really, really well. And when you dollar cost average, at least my experience, over a long enough time in Bitcoin, the problem that you end up having is that when you only invest what you can afford and you dollar cost average it, there will be a day when you can no longer afford to lose what you have, because the can kind of just afford putting the small amounts in soon becomes oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all this money? So I mean, obviously that experience is somewhat reversed in the last few months for me. But dollar cost average by a little bit at a time. I know everybody hates Coinbase, but it's really easy on Coinbase. You just set up even $10-20 a month, smoke one less pack of cigarettes every week, and go out to dinner one less time. Bring your lunch to work, and it'll I guarantee you it'll pay off in the end, and you'll be glad you did it. So I appreciate your advice of dollar cost averaging. And with that, I got to put my groceries away. So have a great day, Thomas. Thanks for all you do.
All right. Totally agree with that. Thanks so much for the call, Dan. Give us a call anytime. And you can call us now at 518-600-1949. I agree with Dan. It's all about the dollar cost averaging, but we do kind of need a plan. We need a secondary plan. People are all about the HODLing and everything, and it's great, right? If you have a job and you have money coming in, you can HODL. But at a certain point, if you start living off your Bitcoin, HODLing becomes very, very dangerous. So we saw it go up a lot. We saw it go down a lot. I think not enough people took profit at the top. They were too into HODLing. And then now we're back at the bottom, and a lot of people are at the bottom with no profit. So hopefully it goes back up and everyone's fine and we don't even worry about this anymore. But we just never know. So, but dollar cost averaging, putting in a small amount like $20 a week, you think that it's not going to work. You think, oh yeah, that's how, I'm not going to make any money that way because it's not enough money. But over time, you can keep doing it and it'll make you money and it'll work. And that's how all these investing plans work. If you were going to invest in the stock market, you'd want to put, $10 a month in over 5 years, and it would be worth more money than if you'd, bought a scratcher lottery ticket or bought another beer every year, these kind of things. So that's the way to do that. We're checking out the chat. What's been going on in the chat? They're talking about Voltaire. I like Voltaire. You've got to take care of your own garden first, like in Candide, the great book about Candide, who'd been raised in a sheltered life like the Buddha. And he had this teacher named Pangloss. And Pangloss said, Candide, this is the best of all possible worlds. And that philosophy ruled over Candide's life. And he always thought it was the best of all possible worlds. But like the Buddha, he was thrown out of his palace and into the real world. And Candide quickly learned that this might not be the best of all possible worlds. His good attitude was met with much mocking and taking advantage of, and just in general, the foul conditions and machinations and plans of other people. They pick him up and throw him in the army. They take his money. They take his clothes. They go back and forth. Candide, goes from nothing to having nothing, and all on and so forth. And then in the end, Candide and Pangloss, they're all reunited with some of their friends, and they're able to go back to the castle, which is now a ruin. And they decide that the best philosophy is to tend to one's garden and to stay at home and solve your own problems. And that's a great philosophy, although I think you have to add to it a little bit with Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, the philosophy is you can't stay home. You have to engage with the world. You have to fight the evil. Because if you just stay home and do nothing, the evil will come to your home too. So it's interesting stuff. We're checking out Anthony Monarat. He says, imagine if all crypto YouTubers were organizing a monthly Bitcoin giveaway jackpot. How many medias would talk about it? And I think it's a well-meaning concept, but I'm not sure that we could do a jackpot or a lottery. I'm pretty sure that would be illegal on its face. In the United States, they have a lot of rules about contests and contracts and giveaways and subscriptions. So I'm not sure that's such a great idea. And again, we would only the thing about giveaways, and I've never been a fan of them from an advertising perspective, is that you always get the lowest common denominator. A quick and easy way to make sure that you're going to have an audience of idiots is to give away free t-shirts. Anyone that will take the free t-shirt and put it on can be in your audience. And sure, it's one thing if it's a sporting team and you're supporting your team, it's like wearing your flag. But it's another thing if it's like a corporate t-shirt and I can get you to wear Dash because I gave you a free shirt, or maybe I gave you a free sticker or something. So you got to watch for that. You got to watch for what you're trading. And when you're taking part in a giveaway, the thing that you're giving away, that's what you're really giving away. So let's see. People are talking about how much they like Amazon reviews, and they're learning all about Bitcoin and the Kindle and how great it is. I say only UV radiation damages the eye, not blue light. Blue light, it's different. They say it wakes you up, basically. So if you're up in the morning, it's good to look at blue light. But if you're trying to go to bed at night, it's bad to look at blue light. So that's why some of the computers and the phones have those programs that make things brown as you get later into the night. And that's supposed to be good for your eyes and help you to sleep well. They say it's still staring at a screen. Yes and no. Remember, part of a screen, going back to the TV, is that the TV was an electron gun firing at you, right? It's drawing the lines one at a time really fast, faster than our eyes can see. So light is being shot at you with the old TV. It's changed a little with the monitors, the liquid crystal displays, and all these kind of things, plasma and all that. But with an e-ink screen like the Kindle, what you're actually looking at is ink on some kind of a surface that's being magneted around. So it's just ink, really. So it's more like a book. It's better to look at. Give it a try. It's unlike any screen you've seen before. It is still kind of screen time, but I don't know, books are looking at paper time. I don't know that that's necessarily better. It's all about I used to be all about with a Kindle, I was going to replace all my books and I wouldn't have books anymore. But then, of course, I love books too much to replace the books. So what happened is the Kindle became more about reading books where you normally can't. And like the Kindle, you can just slip into your pocket. Whereas many of the books I have in this room are hardbacks. They're too big. They're strange sizes. They don't fit well in your pocket. So that's a book I couldn't take there. Kindle is also about going on an airplane, bringing multiple books with you. Previously, I could bring one book, maybe two book. Now I can bring 3 to 5. Also, if you read little segments from each book, you can do that. It's also great to get the new book on there. Like Omarosa's book, I'm not going to cart that around. I got all the Trump books on Kindle. So that was just easier to do. So it's pretty cool. They say the light is above the ink. It bounces down and back up like the natural light would do off a book page. That's interesting. So the Kindle is not backlit. It's actually, like he's saying, it's a screen above the ink bouncing down on it. The old Game Boys and such were actually backlit. So that's where I'm getting that idea. But interesting. And again, technology, amazing technology, giving me the ability to read books faster and easier and to bring more books with me. So it's pretty cool. I don't know. They're down on Amazon workers. I don't know. It's really hard to work at the Amazon factories. They are so efficient. I've read several articles about how hard it is to be a picker And remember, a picker is somebody, they have these computerized shelves and they're moving around the office, right, around the warehouse. And you're sitting there at your station, computerized shelf comes up, says, go to box 4, pick item 3. It's a book from box 4. And they pick it and they put it in the box, and it says, go to shelf 5, pick one of those. They pick that, put it in a box. This whole time, Amazon's timing them. Amazon times them for everything. Amazon is so efficient, but they're also so efficient, they're practically inhuman, right? No one, the book I read about Amazon, they say, yeah, no one likes working there. They all see it as like 5 years of hell. And then after that, they take their stock options and they go to some other company and they realize how screwed up that other company is and how well Amazon runs. So it's pretty amazing stuff over at Amazon. It's good and it's bad. So it's complicated. People are talking about McLaughlin Group. Wrong. And yeah, the idea that, again, we're not going to take on a crusade for D Live. We could be the one and we could do it and all that. But it's just not. I'm doing it for Bitcoin. I'm not going to do it for someone's product. If they want to pay me, but even then, if I was paid, I would be doing it out of payment. It would be a different thing. So everybody likes beer. They like micro beers. Roger Beer would split it into beer coin cans, beer cash, different kind of things. Just put a QR code on the top of a bottle cap so you get tokens and beer. Sounds cool. Oh, BL DeWine's become discouraged from mentioning Bitcoin. The last person he mentioned Bitcoin to rolled his eyes, so he stopped mentioning it. Some people, you just got to let them go. Other people, you just got to keep planting seeds. But I don't know. I had the hard time trying to get the people on the street to take the flyers, but it wasn't so much about Bitcoin. It was just about they're tired of flyers and they're tired of new information. A lot of people have these big walls up and they're like, I don't want new information because then I got to go fact check it. And a fact checking takes time and I don't like new information. And maybe they don't even have a fact checker. They don't even have a fact checking department. They're just not prepared for new information. And it generally has a problem with their entire informational structure and everything they've built everything on. But that's really hard to break. So let's see. Someone turned 29 Bitcoin into 10 trading on BTC-E. Oh, that's a bummer. That's rough. Someone turned 2.7 into 0.5 yesterday on the BitMEX testnet. A good idea to do it on the testnet. That's a good idea. Let's see. They're talking about Art Bell, open lines Friday. And you can call us now at 518-600-1949 on the World Crypto Network. We are live on Bitcoin Talk Show. And yeah, Art Bell is an interesting character. He just used to do late night talk show and talk about aliens and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. Used to listen to him in the old days, late at night. IBLB, all he reads is the live chats. He's all into the live chat. Everyone loves it. 23 Yuva says there was a non sequitur show, had a tribute to Hitch. Hitch is a cool guy. Christopher Hitchens. I read one of his books once and seen many of his talk show appearances and followed his career for a while, certainly. Again, more of a right-wing guy, but just like Pat Buchanan, he speaks his mind and then we have a debate about it. Then we have a discussion, right? I don't have to agree with Hitch. He doesn't have to agree with me. But sad to see him go. Felt like he was a little young, but he did smoke cigarettes almost constantly. He was also a great book stacker. I've seen a lot of interviews with Hitch where he's got impressive stacks of books behind him. And I don't know if he read them or if he just doesn't like bookshelves, but he's got impressive book stacks going on. Charlie LeCamp says, I read 50 to 100 books a year. Fuck work. Damn right. That's what we should all do. That sounds great for everybody. I think everybody would benefit. Guest at Nur says, WCN caters to the above average to high IQ audience. Hence, the view count here suffers. No advertising equals hardcore OG viewers and listeners like you and him in a few years from now when this channel becomes swamped. And I hope so. I hope we can do that. We definitely try to do that. and we try to reach those levels, but I'm not sure if we succeed every time, but we try to do better every time. As Voltaire has to explain, Voltaire is a famous author and philosopher. I went to his grave. It was pretty impressive. He's in the Pantheon in Paris, this magnificent domed building filled with paintings of history of France. And in the basement, they have the catacombs. And I think they actually moved the body or the remains to these ornamental uh, sections. And Rousseau was there, and Voltaire, and Marie Curie, and her husband, and let's see, the author of Les Mis, Victor Hugo, was there, as well as what's his name, Count of Monte Cristo, Dumas, Alexandre Dumas. Very cool author. Let's see. Charlie's working on an RP3 node right now. He's got a Raspberry and a VNC setup, but he's struggling to set up his hard drive and download the blockchain. Yeah, it's always that way when you're working with computers and technology. Certainly, as an IT person, I've been there. I hate to say it, going back to the beginning and reading the instructions over again is probably your best bet. It's going to take more time, but that's not what you want to hear. He's also looking for Linux help. I just got to follow those instructions, and just like I did it on my own live instruction things. You skip one of those. You skip one of those instructions, the whole thing goes to hell. So you gotta be very careful. Sometimes the instructions are hard to read. Says he who can make you believe in absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Interesting. It's a vampire movie. Something about Voltaire. And they're saying, no, First Blood's not referring to Rambo, but that's fine. Rambo is awesome. The first movie is really good. And let's see. More so in the dystopian future, the resistance will turn in daily to WCN for hope and stability. But apparently not phone calls today. Oh, they don't like Rousseau. Rousseau should be removed and scattered, his name blotted from history. I'll have to learn more about what Rousseau did. I think it was natural rights, the laws of man. I don't know. Not very controversial to me, but if you want to swing out against Immanuel Kant, that's what I expect from a Randian. But we want to go ahead and open up the Skype lines as well. You can call us on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word. I did notice yesterday I forgot to open up the Skype lines. So I want to do that today. We have both the phone lines and the Skype lines open. We're going to keep the show going for maybe 5-10 more minutes. If we can get a call or two, we'll try to stretch it out to 11 o'clock. Otherwise, we might do a short Bitcoin talk show here on Sunday morning. But what else has been going on? I toured the Palms Casino yesterday. I walked around. It was pretty nice. I didn't gamble at all. I have this new thing about going to casinos and not gambling. It's pretty fun. This time, I don't even think I bought anything. I just walked around like it was a shopping mall. I looked at stuff. Certainly, I was polite and not damaging their facilities. And then I left. It was pretty cool. So, someone said they read 66 books of the Bible last year. Does that count? That's impressive if you read the Bible, if you actually got through it. I've tried to read it from the beginning. I could never get past that. Joey begats this, and they begat that, and they begat that. And not, certainly I've read other parts, and they've gone through the book several times at church. But no, never actually sat down and read the thing. But certainly read a lot of parts. Here it is. There it is on Rousseau. He says he was the noble, savage, and tabula rasa guy. Also, General Will. 3 bad ideas, according to David in the chat. Tabula rasa is the idea that man is a blank slate, right? A white page, tabula rasa, something like that. And that was the idea that we weren't born with any genetics or any kind of teaching. Noble, savage. Yeah, these are some pretty interesting ideas. I could see how he'd be offended by them with the libertarian sensibilities and so on and so forth. Design flaw agrees. Yeah, Genesis is a slog. It's not what you should open the book with. You could do better. And they're saying something about the Twilight movie was Twilight Part 2. Something about Voltaire. Not sure what. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Thomas. Jeff from Ohio.
Hey, Jeff. How's it going today?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Just a few things. When you were handing out flyers in Vegas, it had me thinking. I've been to Vegas a few times, and I took my pops there back in April. First thing I told him, he's in his mid-70s. He's not used to crowds. And I said, Dad, whatever you do not make eye contact with anybody handing anything out. So I trained him, because he's, from the Midwest. He's used to talking to everybody. And basically in Vegas, you get accosted by everybody wanting something. So when you were going through that, which I mean, it was I give you credit trying to get the word out, but people automatically think you're selling them something. They don't want to engage too much in Vegas. I know you had a little bit of success, but
I was impressed I could get anybody at all to take those flyers. Especially in Vegas, it's not just that they're aggressive, it's that the flyers are usually pornographic, which might offend your dad from the Midwest, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And or somebody trying to sell him something. I just said, Dad, the best way to avoid this, and he's such an engaging person. He was a salesman all his life. I said, we are going to be stuck on this strip for hours if you make eye contact. I said, just don't make eye contact. It's a terrible way to go, through Vegas, but at least on the strip you had to do that. So,
hey, you've also got to do that with the girls. The girls are out there trying to take pictures with people, and they want money for the pictures. And at first they're all nice to you, and they're like, "Oh, hello, come over, say hi." And they're like, "Hey, let's take a picture." And then they're like, "Now we want $20." Like everything's changed.
Hey, and don't you dare touch one of those beads. The people with the beads. If you touch the bead and you walk away, they're going to chase you down for a full block before you. Then you realize,
they're selling on the old strip now, and I'm not sure how long it's going to last. But they're taking, like, I don't know, parts of a palm tree or something, and they're peeling it back and turning it into a flower, and it's all twisted and braided, and they're making them while they're selling them, and it's some kind of tribal industry. It's not going to fly. I don't think it's a good idea, but it's everywhere. So somebody's buying.
You gave it a good shot anyway.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you about that SEC reversal. And I mean, the more I think about it, what type of if you look at the private sector, would the private sector have ever made an announcement and then within 24 hours or 48 hours, whatever it was, said, oh, you know what, that decision, we're not going to go through that. What kind of an organization doesn't have the approval from the top people before it makes an announcement? I just found that this is just fascinating to me, the way our bureaucracy work.
Well, it is interesting, like the SEC commissioner, Hester Pyle, I think his name, or something. Hester Pierce. But yeah, like she said on the news and on TV, she's like, yeah, this was a staff decision. And usually we just let the staff decisions go by. But this one, we wanted to interject and actually have the commission vote on. And I was like, well, why did you have to release it then? And couldn't have you just canceled it and said, hey, we're going to wait for the real decision instead of putting out this staff decision affecting the market, then putting out the review decision, changing their minds the next morning? You want to talk about market manipulation? I think the SEC is protesting too much. They're the ones doing the manipulation now, right?
It seems like that. I just can't wrap my head around an organization that, you think about private industry, you got managers and you've got construction bosses. Everybody gives their approval on the way up and then before things are finalized. And this is, our government bureaucracies are becoming an anachronism. They're a joke. And I'm nothing against the the decision to repeal it or to stop it. It's just that why did you let it work that way to begin with?
Well, one of my favorite shows in the 90s, and everyone, there's going to be like maybe one person that's even heard of this show, but there's this old show on the BBC called Yes Minister, and later it was called Yes Prime Minister. And it was all about this guy, Mr. Humphreys, and he was a bureaucrat, and he was a bureaucrat's bureaucrat. And that's what he loved, right? He loved tying things up in knots and that we're never going to get anything done and nothing's going to change. And that was his strategy in every episode. The politician wanted to do something and he wanted to help people. And of course, to Humphreys, this was the worst idea possible. This was terrible. So he's all about this bureaucracy and all about slowing things down. And, oh, you need to go to the exchequer and you need to do this. And even, as an American, I could understand it and I could laugh at the bureaucracy. So everyone should check out Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. But it is getting pretty absurd. But again, there's not much alternative. I mean, the bigger the government gets, the bigger the bureaucracy gets. I don't know. It's a bit like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They had the galactic government, and it was just so big, no one could petition it. And they were going to destroy the planet Earth because no one had responded to the petition. And sure, they'd posted it in 5 different places, but Earth didn't bother to show up. So, bureaucracy, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I do think, though, that for them to take this step, and it seems to me to be an extreme step, I think it bodes well for, again, I, like you said all along, I mean, I think this is just a matter of Bitcoin getting, getting the camel toes under the tent. We need to, if we get it financialized, or the financialization, it's just going to move the adoption along faster. The adoption is going to occur. This will just move it along faster, get more people exposed quicker, and with the ultimate goal of people eventually taking possession of it and being able to use it in a sort of a new system of good money.
Well, and I think the problem they're setting themselves up for is when they approve the CBOE ETF, and everyone says, of course, they approve the CBOE one. They have the best connections. They have the oldest business. They're in this business. It's what they do, so on and so forth. They're probably going to have to go back and approve the Winklevi, approve the Pro Shares, approve all these other ones, because the reasons that they're rejecting them are very flimsy. And it really does have that feeling from the outside of a good old boys club where they're like, yeah, the Winklevi were early and they did their due diligence and they filled out their forms, and I'm sure they hired lawyers and so on and so forth. But they just weren't members of the club, and we're waiting till the good guys come in, and then it's going to be fine. And I think they're going to have to let everyone in once they do that. So we might go from 0 to a whole lot of ETFs really quickly. It might be a whole kind of different problem. So.
I think you're right, but I think with the CBOE, with the Van Eck one, that they did differentiate it enough in terms of market manipulation. They're using, I think, a combination of over the market prices, which are not quite as volatile. I think they've done enough to satisfy them, and I do think it's, yeah, I know you guys voted on Friday. Everybody voted for next year. I think it's going to be, especially with this reversal Friday, I think they're going to announce an approval in September before the due date on the Van Eck CBOE one. And then I think that I just struggling finding them kicking it down the road again after they interjected on this. On the disapproval. I think also there's one more commissioner to add. I don't know if Trump might be too busy to add a commissioner now, but I think there's one more to add to the board, which would generally, I think, with the people he's been adding have been favorable to, sort of a freer interpretation of Bitcoin.
Yeah, their government is in a strange position where they haven't filled out a lot of the positions of government, and it seems unlikely that they're ever going to do so now. I mean, from one perspective, if you want the government to fail, not staffing it is certainly a good way for it to fail. If there's anything good that it could do, it would do it better with actually having people working on the projects. But I do kind of agree with you that now that they have changed their mind and publicly said about this review, it does kind of change the calculation. Before they had said nothing, it was like, of course, they're going to wait till the very end. But now they have changed their mind. I do think CBOE is a member of the good old boys club. They've got the right hands to juice. They've got the favors to call in, and they think they're going to make a lot of money off this, and they're probably right. So, let them do it, right? Let them capitalism, right?
Yeah, I think they sat down at the table with the staff that made the decision and say, okay, tell us what you need to see. And although it's still Bitcoin, it's hard to do it perfectly. I think they have done enough in their application to make it agreeable. But we'll find out soon enough here. 1 month isn't that long in the Bitcoin world.
It sure isn't. And we're talking in the chat. They're saying, anyone want to play Spot the Fed? And I say, fanny pack is a good tell. David says he went to DC with his scout troop in 89 or 90. They were required to wear fanny packs. That's awful. That's a government enforced fashion. And of course, the reason the cops are wearing fanny packs is that's where they put their gun. So it was always a thing on campus cops. You're like, hey, are you armed? And the guy would like point his fanny pack at you and be like, oh, nice fanny pack.
I would hope it was just mace in those fanny packs.
Oh, sadly, these days it's usually a little handgun. So they are ready to go.
Yeah, that's hard to believe. All right. Hey, I'll let you go, but thanks for taking my call.
Sure. Thanks so much, Jeff, for the call. I'll give us a call anytime. And you can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network, all one word, or at 518-600-1949. We've got time for maybe 1 or 2 more calls before we hit the end of the show on this Sunday morning. But I didn't listen to the Velvet Underground today. It's too bad. I did read more about Andy Warhol. After reading that little book about his diaries, I'm definitely thinking about buying the Andy Warhol diaries. It looks really big. I love really big books that I know I'm never going to read, but it's good for flipping through. You can flip through and see who Andy Warhol met with, see who he was thinking about, see what he purchased. It was a lot about Andy spending his money. It was interesting stuff, so I might check that out. I don't know. Yesterday I was at the casino and I saw a Lord of the Rings slot machine, and I was like, I should go buy more Lord of the Rings stuff. So I went to the bookstore and I couldn't find anything. There are a couple of his books I haven't read. I guess I could try to slog into those, but it's just so heavy. I don't know what I was looking for. Some kind of Lord of the Rings thing. I guess Amazon's doing a new series about Lord of the Rings. I could probably watch that eventually. Instead of having it be in movies, which were really good, it's going to be a mini series. So it's going to be presumably even more detailed translation or movieization or whatever of the Lord of the Rings. I was kind of thinking though, does anyone remember back to before they made the movies when the Lord of the Rings was just a book series and you could just enjoy it in your head? And maybe there was a cartoon or a couple of cartoons about it. It's strange to see what a worldwide global phenomenon it's become, where there are Game of Thrones slot machines and there are Lord of the Rings slot machines. There's also Willy Wonka slot machines. There's a lot of branded slot machines in this town. People are working on Fanny Pack. They're going to fact check it. They're checking it out. It wasn't the government. It was the adult leaders forcing them to wear fanny packs. And it is a good way to hold on to your keys and your wallets. Guess that nurse says it's like a Batman utility belt, just like a woman's purse or a man purse. But they still make fun of it. Oh, they say the Amazon series might not be just a retelling of Lord of the Rings. It's going to be a separate story set in Middle Earth. Oh, well, that sounds interesting. I did try to read one of the I want to say the Lords of Turin or something like that books, and I couldn't get into it. It was like 1,000 years or 10,000 years before all the other things, which has happened to me before in a book in the Dune series, which is a fantastic series. The 4th book is about one character who kind of can have a 10,000-year view of the future, and he just has all this epic time to him, and it's a great Great book. You got to check out the Dune series if you haven't read it. Looking for a good series. And of course, I've read Dune, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, all these kind of things. Steven supports cargo pockets over a fanny pack. Yeah, but whenever I put anything in the cargo pockets, it's always banging my leg. It's like you know exactly what cargo you're wearing around with you. Children of Huron. Yeah, I think I tried to read that when it came out, and I just couldn't get into it. And I also tried to read some of the Dune books after the original 6 that the author wrote, and then the 2 after that, and then there's more. I couldn't get into the more, but I did read the 8. So it was good stuff. I love the Dune books. Took me a while though. Dune books, Game of Thrones books, took a while. Also, it was fun with both of those. I read them on the Kindle, so I have no idea how long those books actually are. And when I went to the bookstore and I saw the Game of Thrones books stacked up, I was like, I read that. Wow. You know, the magic of the Kindle. They're also suggesting the Orson Scott Card Ender's Game series. One of the few series I haven't read. I just haven't read that one. Didn't see the movie. I know the general plot. I'm interested, but I don't know. It never leapt off the page. It always felt like Isaac Asimov kind of dated sci-fi. It didn't feel like accessible sci-fi like Philip K. Dick or the Star Wars books. One more thing I was talking about and thinking about, Neil Stephenson's Seven Eves. You got to go read that one. Neil deGrasse Tyson is actually in that book, and just spending the 3 hours with him on the Joe Rogan show over the last couple of days has reminded me again what a good book Seven Eves was. And one thing Neil was talking about with Joe is he talked about the Bering Strait land bridge and the ice bridge, where people were able to come across to America, to the New World, and that then the ice bridge went away, and that the Native Americans and et cetera, were cut off from the old society. And then human society developed in 2 different groups until Columbus reestablished contact. And certainly the Vikings might have had earlier contact as well. But this reminded me so much of the book Seven Eves, which even has a character that is like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think it's actually him. And he helps them understand the science, because in Seven Eves, as is presented on the very first page, an asteroid is heading for Earth, a big one, right? So humanity is doomed. We have, I don't know, maybe something like 3 years to get everything we can off this planet, or under this planet, or under the ocean. Like, people have different ideas about what they think survival is and what they're going to succeed with. But just in general, everything on the surface is toast. And Stephenson writes it in such a realistic fashion. You were just flipping page to page to page, and then he goes far into the future, and a lot of things happen that I don't want to spoil. But like Neil is talking about, it's about these separate cultures, and it's also about the future, and it's about ways to survive, and all of the science writing feels very accurate. All the things that happen. So I would check out Seven Eves. It's probably, maybe it'll be a movie. I don't know. They haven't converted a lot of Neil Stephenson's work for some reason. I'm not sure why. It's mostly really good. I haven't read a lot of his long ones, but I read all of his early short ones, and I love those. I hope Amazon follows through and makes that Snow Crash series that they talked about. It should be out by now. I'm not sure why it's not out yet. But yeah, definitely check out Seven Eves, Neil Stephenson. They're talking in the chat. They say Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were friends. I've read all of C.S. Lewis's books too. Well, at least all The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I never got into the movies though. Just too late, too separate. I read those a long time ago. But let's see. He's 400 pages in. 70s now. Oh, this guy doesn't like it? Oh, Charlie, come on. Oh, he says it's 400 pages in and the plot has barely moved. I don't know. I was just on fire with it. I started reading it and I was like, from page 1, it was like, oh my gosh, the asteroid's coming. We got to do this thing. And it talks about, the space station and trying to make the space station bigger, and people trying to get into space, and then the realities that people aren't going to get to go to space, and other people going into the ground or under the ocean. Just really, I don't know. It took me right in. I'm surprised you don't like it, but I hope it turns around for you and you enjoy it. Let's see. Someone's having a fight with their daughter in the chat. Oh, that's sometimes you just gotta, they're just blowing off steam. You don't really mean it. So it's better not to say things. Charlie says it's too slow, great detail, but he feels like he's waiting forever. Well, I enjoyed the twist. I enjoyed when they get to space. I enjoy what happens after they get to space, so on and so forth. It's pretty satisfying. I say one of my big problems with Stephenson back in the early days would be his kind of shoddy endings. I enjoyed Snow Crash and the Diamond Age and even Zodiac very much until he got to the end, and it was just I felt like it just ended. It was like you flip the page and it's like whoop, the end. So there's still a little bit of that, but he gives you a lot more ending than I think you think you're going to get, and he goes far more into the future than I thought we were going to, and that's where it gets even more interesting. But I just thought it was really realistic when I read Seven Eves. I just flew right through it. It was also very popular around the office. A lot of the other crypto nerds and people I was working with thought it was a good book, and they checked it out. Um, they're also talking Foundation series by Asimov. That's the other big one I haven't read. I haven't read Foundation. I haven't read Ender's Game. So I read I, Robot though. It was okay. I wasn't too crazy about it. More into Philip K. Dick. I've been reading a lot of biographies, I guess, these days. Uh, I don't know, all over the place. You got to read all kinds of different books. You can't just read the same kind. You're gonna get bored. But we could use one more phone call to get us to the end of the show, but I don't feel like it's coming. So I think we're going to run towards the end of Bitcoin Talk Show. I've got great news. Personally, the Close Encounters of the Third Kind Blu-ray that I ordered is going to be delivered maybe sometime today, maybe tomorrow. So I'm going to check that out. Close Encounters. I've only seen it like once, so I'm curious to see it again. I remember it being kind of an instant classic, a great sci-fi film, and just very unnerving. All these people, something wrong with them, needing to go somewhere, that kind of thing. And the other, let's see what else. I've also been trying to beat Watch Dogs. I keep playing it on the PlayStation 4. It's this great Grand Theft Auto mixed in with hacking kind of game. It's got a great plot and storyline, but I got all tied up in doing all the missions. So been wasting a lot of time on that, but it's fun too. It's like an interactive movie. It really is what you've been waiting for in games. They've gotten really good most recently. So if you haven't played a game in a while, it's fun. Let's see. And people say they're reading Life After Google. That sounds interesting. I haven't heard of that. Sounds like a tech book. I'm looking forward to that Steve Jobs' daughter book. Definitely going to pick that up. Might get a real copy of that one. I seem to read all the Steve Jobs books in real copy. But I read the Steve Jobs Isaacson book. I read Apple After Jobs, a book about what happened afterwards. And I read the Johnny Ive book. I think I might have also read some of the guys that worked at Apple, their books. I'd like to read the Woz book, but it's probably the same. It's just sadder. I love Woz, but I feel so sad for him when Steve Jobs takes the money from that Atari job and doesn't give it to Woz. And then they told Woz about it years later, and Woz cried because they were poor and they needed that money. But Jobs felt he should get a bigger share of the money. And that's a lot of the things Steve Jobs did. He just did what he wanted to do. It's an interesting character. So very interested in him. Did I keep up on No Man's Sky? No, I haven't. I haven't played it since I broadcasted on Twitch. I don't know. I don't know if I should be playing it or if I should be broadcasting it all the time. I think I should broadcast the end of Watch Dogs. So if I get close to that, I might do that. But they're talking about Philip K. Dick in the chat. That's the kind of dick that you want. His name is so offensive, but his books are so much more. So definitely check out some Philip K. Dick. I tried to read the ones with the worst titles because I thought they'd be better, like I am a galactic pot boiler or something like that. Galactic pot healer, something strange. And like just the titles are so long and so weird. And then the book will be really good. So check out Philip K. Dick. Thanks for joining us today on Bitcoin Talk Show. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. If you haven't already, please subscribe down below. It helps us get more viewers, and ring that bell for notifications. We'll be back again tomorrow, Monday, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Coast time, even though we're not on the coast. Until next time, bye-bye.